Well, good morning everybody. Thanks for joining me again. I'm in Torquay today. I'm here with my friend Simon Lane, doing a bit of photography. We thought we would catch the sunrise, but it's not come up above the clouds just yet, so looks like we're going to have to wait for a bit of light. As you can see, it's a bit dull. I'd like to film into the sunrise and show you the clouds and the light, but you won't be able to see my face. Anyway, we're going to have a look around this pier and around through to the harbour and see what we find. So this was a little bit different for me. I normally go out on my own and spend a lot of time thinking about filming and what shots I'm going to take. So walking around with Simon was a breath of fresh air. It was nice to have a chat, and we concentrated on the photography and giving each other little challenges. This was the first one. I was standing on the pier, so I took this classic shot looking back towards the theatre, but what really attracted me was the reflections in the wet planks. So I took a close-up shot of the planks themselves, and I have increased the saturation on this shot a little bit. But it's one of those shots that gives you a bit of a story. You look at it and you think, well, where are the lights coming from? Where are you? And the patterns themselves just make a very pleasing image. So I'm really pleased with this one. So as I said, apologies for not filming too much. There's a lot of photographs in this week's video, but hopefully you like them. Our next challenge was to look across the harbour from the pier and see what shots we could make. I immediately saw this one of the lights along the pontoon leading into the distance. What I eventually ended up though with was this one, where I'd cropped in because the posts along the pontoon were sharply in focus, leading you up to the door in the distance. And because this was a 15-second shutter speed to capture the light, you can see that the boats around it are in motion, so slightly blurred. But I really like the leading line up to this door and the lights along the pontoon. So by this time the sun had started to come up, but as you can see there's a band of cloud on the horizon which was preventing the sun giving us some really good light. However, there were lots of these silhouette shots to have. These fishermen were happy enough to let us take their photograph. So this first shot is really driven by the height of the lamppost on the left hand side. And then all I've done is I used the rule of thirds. So the shadow, the silhouetted part in the bottom third, the lights roughly the top third, and the band of cloud in the middle. The only other thing I've done is I've made sure that I've got all three of the fishing rods in the photograph. With this next image, all I've done is concentrated on the guy in the middle who was just casting out, and I've tried to capture the motion of that in this photograph, even though it's just a silhouette. The only thing that could be better is the sort of position of the other fishing rod that's just through his head. But the composition of him and the railings below, which are just separated from him, just works quite nicely. And then the last of these three silhouette shots are of these cormorants sat on a rock a bit further out from the harbour. I was lucky enough just to catch them right with this band of light behind them, and all I've had to do is make sure that I don't cut the heads off with where the cloud line is. And they were also quite obliging by equally spacing themselves out along this rock for me. Well, as you can see, we're just larking around the harbour. Say hello, Simon.
Hello there.
Just looking at reflections in the harbour buildings. And there's the Mayor's Ring behind here, where we thought we might get some photos of the leading lines. Well, Simon was taking pictures of the Harbour Masters building here, which, as you can see the reflection of the buildings and the landscape and different colours in the windows. So I gave it a go as well. These sort of shots are not what I normally take. I'm normally in the landscape or doing a bit of wildlife, but it's always good to experiment. So this was the first one I took, and I've just framed the whole of the Harbour Masters lookout and the other building that sort of tapers off, and you can see different pictures in each of the windows. I have increased the saturation on this photograph a little bit just to bring the colours out in the windows. Unfortunately, that's put a sort of a brownish tinge to the sky above, which I didn't like. I might try a different edit of this photograph. So while we were there, Simon and I had the classic photographer's conversation about post-processing. So this image, clearly, I've done a lot of post-processing. I've put a mask over the windows to isolate them, and then the surrounding area I've taken away all the colour by reducing the saturation, and on the window area I've actually increased the saturation. So although those were the colours that were there, I haven't changed them. What I have done is increase their saturation, which makes them stand out, and I really like this image. And hopefully, clearly, anyone looking at this will know that's not what you actually see when you're there. So there's a sign of the times going by, but that's one of the shots we've been trying to get through this ring and along the railings, just highlighting the leading lines. So with these next three images I was still experimenting, and I'm sure these are not going to be to everybody's taste. What I had started to do around the harbour was look at the architecture and the engineering of the harbour fabric itself. So this one, looking at the ring in the distance, I was concentrating on where the upright meets the railing, focused on that, using a very shallow depth of field by using the aperture as open as it could be. I think this was at f1.4. And all I've done is move the camera very slightly from directly above the railing, slightly to the left, and then slightly to the right. And you can see the effect it has and the different images you can get, even though you've got the focus of the circle in the middle still. So carrying on the engineering theme, I took this classic photograph of the bridge in the middle of the harbour, and as you can see I've done the obvious thing and just looked at the leading line of the boardwalk across it, the two uprights in the middle of the photograph, and gives a good leading line. You can see triangles coming in from the bottom and from the sides. Great classic shot. So still at the bridge, I've tried to do something a little bit different. What I've done is move to the railing. I've focused in on the nuts and bolts of the bridge itself, as you can see right in the centre of the photograph. I've made sure that's sharply in focus, and the rest it didn't really matter. You can see the leading lines of the railings going into the distance. You've got the boardwalk on the left hand side, and you've also got almost like a picture window through the railings to the harbour in the distance. And again, you've still got the uprights of the bridge still within the frame of the photograph. And this is probably my favourite photograph from the whole day. And this is the last photograph of the bridge. What I've done is moved down slightly and back. I've still got that picture window on the right hand side, and I've made sure that the buildings don't come above that second railing. Again, you've got more of the boardwalk on the left hand side that sweeps into the distance, giving you that leading line. The uprights are still within the frame, and then just happened to be some guy that was jogging past that gives it a little bit of scale. And I really like both this one and the previous image just because of the engineering of the bridge. Well, that's a bit better. The sun's out now. And I'm standing by one of the icons of Torquay. Yes, icon indeed. This fountain in the gardens in Torquay must have been photographed by thousands of people. And I must admit, when you drive past, it always looks good in the sunlight, and at night when it's lit up by floodlights, it's you think there must be a great image here. But try as I might, as you can see, trying different angles, I was really struggling to get a photograph of this. These are the two I ended up with. I got down low, and because of the 16mm lens, you can see the distortion in the fountain. It doesn't look too bad. And then I tried this close up, and I made it a black and white shot. I prefer this one. I can see the water cascading across, and in the distance you can see the bus shelter and the bench. Just gives it a bit more of a story. So I prefer this of the two. But not my best images. Well, it's been nice walking around the harbour with Simon. Those locals will know who Simon Lane is, but if you don't, I'll put a link below to his YouTube channel. We've taken some nice shots from around the harbour, but the sun's well up now and light's getting a bit harsh. So I think we'll call it a day. Thanks for joining me again, and I'll see you again next Sunday. But for now, cheerio. I think it was about there.
I'm going to get one quick one while you're sorting yourself out.
Cheese.
Right.
Well, that's been really nice. Simon's taught me a few more photography tricks, and we've taken some nice photographs from around the harbour here. So, but I think I'll call it a day now. So until next Sunday, cheerio. I think that's enough.